What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM. This is your NFL Week 9 betting preview, and I'm your host, Chris Raybon. On this show, we're going to talk our favorite sides, totals, teasers, survivor picks, underdog money lines, and of course, we'll crack open our weekly Sunday six-pack of Against the Spread bets with the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stucky. Stuck, what's going on?
What's going on, brother? Yeah, it was a weird week in that I ended up 500, but it was the worst capped week I've ever had in my life. I mean, the Packers were embarrassing again. The first half, they just don't know how to play football. And then my Texans Panthers over was just a shit show of them just trying to run way too often. So had that one completely wrong. The thing that sucked about the six pack for the podcast that you should have swept and got absolutely shafted. You had a Browns bounce off a helmet, and I agreed with throwing there. I just didn't like the play call. I would have rolled PJ Walker out because before the 2-minute warning, give him a chance to run with a simple throw if he could find it. And then the Ravens not covering. I mean, it took acts of God for that. The onside kick, a missed field goal, and a penalty. So those two are brutal for you. So you definitely should have swept the card, but sometimes the bounces go the other way. As always, we are on to I get the week 9.
Week 9.
College and NFL mixed up. So this week it's a very interesting week. It's post trade deadline week. So you have some player movement. And then most importantly, it is just quarterback uncertainty across the board. Look, I just wrote my MAC manifesto. I do college football. It's all backup quarterbacks in the MAC. We have, if you exclude the marquee games, because there's an amazing slate of games. You just have one TV starting in Germany, Chiefs, Dolphins, Ravens, Seahawks, going into Cowboys, Eagles, going into the Sunday night game of Bills, Bengals. If you remove those games, we have 8 other games between Thursday and Sunday. And so there's 16 quarterbacks. There's the potential of 10 of those 16 to be backups, which is insane. Multiple games where we could have backup versus backup. So it's a mess out there.
Yeah, and the league average just got above 6 yards net per pass and 7 yards per pass attempt. And I feel like it's going to drop back down after this week unless you have some really big games in those marquee matchups because, yeah, a lot of second-rate quarterbacks this week. But we will jump right into the Thursday night football, and then we'll crack open a six-pack. And before we do, just a reminder that the NBA season has officially tipped off. So if you like betting on the association, be sure to check out Buckets, Action Network's basketball betting podcast. New episodes every single weekday during the NBA season. That name again, Buckets, available wherever you like to listen. All right, let's get into Thursday night football. All right, so this is an interesting game. We have the Tennessee Titans, who all of a sudden there is, a team that seemed dead to rights. Now their fan base has some optimism, but they go to Pittsburgh. The Steelers are 2.5-point favorites. The total 36.5. The public is loving the under, apparently, which is interesting to me. I think, if this Will Levis hype train is for real, the way that Tennessee probably has success is, down the field. Minkah Fitzpatrick out for Pittsburgh. You also have, they were struggling just deep passes in general, dead last in DVOA on deep passes. So that's my kind of thought on this game. I think it's probably Tennessee in the over leans for me, but what are you thinking with this one?
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty, like many of the games this weekend with Will Levis. I mean, look, he overall he threw for 4 touchdowns, no interceptions his first game, but it was mainly just 4 explosive passing plays. Hopkins, I was with a friend who benched Hopkins because of Levis for the first time all year. He was not happy about that on his fantasy team. But yeah, I mean, if you remove those explosives, which aren't, they're not the most steady, sustainable passing type, it wasn't that great of a day for Levis. I think he would have won 15 of 25 for like 70 yards or something. So can he keep that up? Remains to be seen. It's a sample size of one. We still need to learn more about Levis. There's also Steelers quarterback uncertainty, although there's not much difference, in my opinion, between Pickett and Bortles, aka Trubisky. I think this total's come down a little bit too far. With no Fitzpatrick, you could get some more explosive plays from Tennessee. You also could get some explosive runs against the Steelers' run defense that isn't very good. And then Pittsburgh's best point of attack here, I think, on offense is to take some shots against that Tennessee secondary that's not very good and now no longer has Byard on the back end. So maybe you can see some down the sidelines throws to Pickett, which is basic Pickens, which is basically their only offense. So, yeah, it's not like either of these defenses are elite. So this is a super low total because of all the primetime unders. So, probably a little bit too much uncertainty for me to get involved. But I do lean and show a little bit of value on the over. From a side perspective, now this has come down, I can't bet Tennessee. If it was a little higher, I might look at the money line for the Titans, just given that uncertainty and the upside with their offense and the but I also look, it's a classic Tomlin spot off a loss at home. But the Steelers team is just not good. I mean, they've been outgained in every single game through 8 weeks. They have the lowest net point differential or net yardage differential for a team that's over 500. Like, they're just not very good. But in these spots, like, their defense ends up playing up, and you're playing a really young quarterback. So you also could see points from like the Steelers defense here for the over, right? You can expect a huge play from Watt, a strip sack, a pick six, something like that. So it's a classic Steelers spot, but this Pittsburgh team, it's just not very good. And they've been fortunate to get to 4-3 with a couple of voodoo wins. Do they get another one here? Maybe. I think the line at 2.5, 3 is about right. I think the total is probably a little bit too low, but gross Thursday night game, a lot of quarterback uncertainty on both ends. So as of right now, it's a pass for me.
Yeah, I agree with the uncertainty. I think, but I also, even at the 2.5, I would still lean Tennessee there because I think this is just one of those spots where, remember a few weeks ago, I forget, whatever the Steelers played CJ Stroud. And, I was just like, listen, he's a rookie, but the Steelers aren't going to be able to score as much as he is. And there's much more uncertainty with Levis than there was with Stroud at this point. But, to your point, the one thing that Levis did well, not the one thing, because he played well around, but like the thing that's most dangerous about Levis is the downfield passing. And that's the element that he adds. And that's what Pittsburgh is bad at. So there is uncertainty, but you're also kind of maximizing the upside within that uncertainty. And I feel like it goes toward Tennessee because on the other side, I'm hearing that, Pickett he's trying to play. He's got a rib injury and they're saying he might not be able to get his usual, zip on the ball and things like that. So that just puts Pittsburgh in a bad situation because the one thing on defense Tennessee does well is stop the run. And if Pickett if that's Pittsburgh's means of offense, I just think both sides of the ball kind of favor Tennessee with all the, the circumstances surrounding this matchup. So, it's Tennessee or nothing for me and the over and nothing for me, but it's a Thursday night game. It's a lot of uncertainty and I'm probably just staying away, but I am tempted to back Tennessee. I'm not going to lie. All right, let's let me wrap that up with some numbers because you mentioned the Tomlin spots, but I mean, you also got Tennessee.
Vrabel's a dog.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't even want to talk about this Thursday night game. Y'all know, if y'all been listening, y'all know what it is. Tomlin's great as a dog. Vrabel's great as a dog. I do think there's a little value on Levis just potentially catching the Steelers off guard again. Short week, no Minkah Fitzpatrick. So that's my handicap of this game. So and you're going to kind of force Pittsburgh to pass even more than they want on the other side. So I don't like the matchup at all for Pittsburgh, despite them being at home. But let's get into what is, I think, just one of the most intriguing, interesting slates that we've had all of 2023. So let's go right in to our week number 9 Sunday six pack.
Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday Six-Pack.
All right. 29-26 me. As you mentioned, had a couple of bad beats, but I got to eat those because I've been running hot, getting lucky. I think I actually last year had a PJ Walker Hail Mary that worked in my favor at one point. So, I mean, although we almost lost that one too, because I think the kicker missed like an extra point and there was a penalty. There's all types of shenanigans. But either way, I am going to start it off this week. And I am going for my first pick of the Week 9 Sunday Six-Pack and the first overall with the fire-selling Washington Commanders +3.5 at the New England Patriots. First of all, both of these teams are bad, but New England should not be favored by a field goal really against anybody, much less 3 in a hook. So you got New England, who just, unlike Washington, pretty much hasn't shown the ability to generate offense much of the year. Now you caught the knife, their highest scoring game against Buffalo. But even that game, I mean, 364 total yards. Okay, fine. That was only their second time all season over. Third time all season over 300. So this is a team that is going to struggle. And now you just lost your best receiver in Kendrick Bourne, who is extremely productive this year. So just when things look like, okay, maybe you're getting some linemen back, you lose a guy in Kendrick Bourne to an ACL who had 37 catches, 406 yards, 4 touchdowns on the year. So that's a tough loss. And, this New England team, it's banged up on defense still. Belichick is getting exposed. I mean, remember, you could joke on the Raiders all you want, but that was Belichick's succession plan in New England. All this Josh McDaniels, Jimmy G stuff, it just so happened it didn't work out, and it was even worse. But Mac Jones has been regressing, and Howell, he's inconsistent, but the upside for Howell, I think, especially when I'm getting points, is something you just don't have with Mac Jones. Like, Howell has already had multiple games well over almost 400 passing yards, coming off a historic performance, even in a loss last week. And Mac Jones, he started his career 9-4 against the spread. Since he's 7-18-1, failing to cover by just under 4.5 points a game, 3-12 against the spread since last Thanksgiving. And that's just indicative of the lack of upside that Mac Jones gives you, because this Patriot team has had a solid defense throughout much of that stretch, but he just hasn't been able to get it done. And I just have these teams rated pretty evenly, but the difference is, especially with all these injuries, because even Parker probably is not playing. He's got a concussion. So you're going to have Pop Douglas, who I like, but the ghost of Juju at wide receiver. I mean, you're right back to just poverty offense. Washington can at least score. So, their defense was already bad. 31st in DVOA. So, you can't get much lower. You still have some other guys on a defensive line, some studs. So I'm not going to overreact to, them trading Chase Young and Montez Sweat, but because I just don't think that was a strength. I think this Patriot offense is going to be bad regardless, but Washington can actually score points. Washington can put up 400 or 500 yards of offense. Washington can put up over 30 points. The Patriots can't. So give me the Washington Commanders, road underdogs historically, below a touchdown against a home favorite averaging 18 or fewer points, 167, 94, and 9, 64% against the spread over the last 2 decades. It's just really tough when you can't score. So give me the Commanders with the hook.
Yeah, I have no real strong feel here, but can't fault you for taking the dog catching the hook with a total, sitting around 40. And yeah, fading this Patriots team as a favorite also is never a bad idea, but don't really have a strong feel. The Commanders are such a weird team, so you definitely only want to back them as dogs, as you're doing here. And avoid them as favorites because of the inconsistency at quarterback. But I'm going to stay in the NFC East. And for my first pick in the second overall of the Week 9 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys +3 at the Philadelphia Eagles. Hopefully, and by the way, hopefully if the Patriots are up 4 late, they'll take a safety for you. That was another horrendous beat this year. But I'm going with the Cowboys +3 against the Eagles. Number one, just from a numbers perspective, I actually have the Cowboys slightly power rated ahead of the Eagles as of now. Throw in home field advantage. I make the Eagles, about a 1.5 point favorite. 3 is the most important number in football. So I'm happy to take the field goal here. I also just like some matchup advantages for Dallas and where this team is trending. The defense, look, you lost Diggs at corner. There was a little bit of growing pains, but they've kind of settled it in the secondary. Deron Bland is playing really well. Marquise Bell, an undrafted free agent who's graded the best linebacker in football per PFF right now, is playing out of his mind. He's an upgrade over Van Der Esch. So the defense has really found its identity. Obviously, you have one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. But it's more importantly, and the defense for the last couple of years, it's been a top 5 unit. It's a top 5 unit once again this year. We know that. On the other side of the ball is where I'm most impressed by and where Dallas is trending. I was, almost off this team completely a few weeks ago for a few things. I was saying Dak was not running the ball, afraid to run. He only ran it 12 times over his first 5 games. He's ran it 11 the last 2, and he didn't even have to run in the second half last week because it was such a blowout. But he's also moving around in the pocket more. But the play calling and use of motion after the bye week has increased. They're getting the ball out quick. They're throwing it on first downs. Like, it's not Mike McCarthy just running into the walls. I think Dak Prescott an 80% success rate throwing on first down, and they're getting the ball out quick. You saw what Sam Howell did last week. That was Washington's game plan. Get the ball out quick, throw it on early downs, neutralize the Eagles' pressure, take advantage of the holes in the middle of that defense at slot corner. By the way, you could expect a shit ton of CeeDee Lamb in the slot. I mean, I don't know what the Eagles are going to do about that, but Dak looks great. He's number 1 in EPA over the past 3 weeks, using his legs, getting rid of the ball. This offense is in rhythm. He's had a ton of success against this Eagles defense in the past. So I love where this Dallas Cowboys offense is trending. Eagles run defense has been great. Cowboys run offense is not. So, that's your strength there is kind of neutralized. Tyron Smith could come back at left tackle. Tyler Smith's playing out of his mind, all pro level at left guard. The rest of the interior is playing well. So this offensive line is trending up as well. Hurts also still just not 100% healthy. He had a big game last week just throwing to A.J. Brown, which is a concern. So I have concerns for both defenses here. I don't know how the Eagles are going to cover CeeDee Lamb. I don't know how they're going to cover the quick passing attack of Dallas over the middle of the field. I also am a bit concerned about the Cowboys' run defense, and if Philly decides to just go power heavy. Also, A.J. Brown against man coverage. Cowboys play a lot of cover 0, man. A.J. Brown's been destroying man coverage. Curious to see if they try to put a safety over top. They were bracketing Kupp last week. Easier to do in the slot than on the outside. So have some concerns for the Cowboys defense. But this Eagles offense just all year, it's been inconsistent. And the whole team has been inconsistent. I mean, if you look, their pass defense is 23rd DVOA. They're 18th overall. They're top 3 in our luck rankings. They've been one of the luckiest teams in the NFL. They're 4-1 in one possession games. You're talking Vikings by 6, Pats by 5. They were 6-2 turnover advantage in those games. Commanders by 3 in overtime. Commanders by 7 in a game that was back and forth the entire game. They beat the Rams by 9, and the Bucks by 14 lost to the Jets and Zach Wilson. And then, their one really impressive performance came against the Dolphins. It's been a really inconsistent team. The offense has been up and down. The defense has been good against the run, but not against the pass, which I think Dallas can take advantage of. And I just like where this offense is trending for Dallas. So I'm happy to take the 3 here with the Cowboys in a game that, I think is basically a coin flip. So I can't wait for this one. It's a fascinating chess match for both defensive coordinators, but give me Dallas and their uptrending offense in Philly.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to, obviously to see what the Cowboys did on offense, coming out aggressively and switching things up. But I was even more pleasantly surprised to actually hear McCarthy and you kind of talk through what he changed and what he saw and what he did. And, that is big for Dallas and for anyone that's backing them to go deep in the playoffs or has a Super Bowl future, whatever, because I think that, we talked about this. That was the biggest concern with Dallas was probably, it was two things. There was the kicker, which he's been great, and it was the coaching and the play calling, and it didn't start off great for Dallas. I mean, just all these runs up the middle. They still haven't really got Pollard going, so I don't think
their run blocking's been bad. There's been a lot of shuffling in the offensive line. There's been a lot of missed assignments, and so they haven't really got him going. But you're not really going to get anyone going against the Eagles D on the ground. So I think that even just leads to more early down passing, which gets this offense in the best rhythm possible. So yeah, McCarthy in the past has thrown on early downs, like with the Packers. Wasn't doing it early this year. Had all those comments about wanting to run the ball more, but then also said like he's been studying analytics. So this is a really good sign for the Dallas offense. I think they have some big advantages here, and I think that this line should be under a field goal between two evenly matched teams. Home field advantage is not 3 points in today's NFL, especially in division games when it's even lower. So give me the Cowboys.
Yeah, this Cowboys team, it looked night and day. It looked like that dangerous team that we kind of expected them to be. And, the Eagles are what are they, 7-1 now? But watching them play, they just haven't been quite as good as their record. They already played the Commanders twice, take that for what it, and it's a weird team. They're very good, but I think Dallas is right there.
Philly just hasn't put it all together yet. Like they're obviously Super Bowl contenders, but like 1 week their defense is off, and 1 week their offense just isn't in rhythm. Hurts is also still dealing with a potential injury, not 100% healthy. So I think it's a good time to buy the Cowboys.
All right, for the third overall pick of the Week 9 Sunday six pack, my second pick, I am going with the Houston Texans -2.5 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Also like the Houston money line, if you just want to avoid any shenanigans. They've been playing in some close games, but listen, Houston's a better team here, and I get a spot where I can back the better quarterback, the better team. Houston's 16th in DVOA, 13th on offense, and Tampa Bay's 22nd in overall DVOA, 25th on offense. Tampa Bay's a little bit better on defense, much worse on special teams. But overall, offense is always going to be the most important. And, I tried it with this Tampa Bay team, going against Atlanta, and Desmond Ridder rittered all over the place. And they end up scoring like 13 points. They still couldn't get it done. This team predictably it's kind of gone the way of the Cardinals a little bit, not quite to that extent, but we expected this team to be pretty bad. And starting the year, I think we were both on the Bucs against the Minnesota Vikings, because of course, and then they end up beating the Bears by 10 the next week. So they start the year with 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread. They have a plus 13 point differential. And then they also get that, we were on that win against New Orleans as well, where they, Derek Carr and that team just wasn't right at that point. So, they've kind of lucked into some wins early on against teams that just weren't right. But since the bye, they've come out, and it's been ugly. The point differential is -23. They're 0-3 straight up. We're really lucky to kind of cover that game against Buffalo on Thursday night. I mean, just another one of those, you just kind of, you took your hat to the luck. But our luck rankings are kind of looking at Tampa Bay as a team that is overachieving a ton. They are the fourth luckiest team, whereas Houston's just middle of the pack. And I think Houston, especially last week, got unlucky. I think Houston played well enough to win that game. So one thing we have seen from this Texan team, which you kind of expect when you have a young quarterback and just a lot of new things going on, they've been much better at home. That Carolina game was in Carolina. The week before, they upset the Saints at home. And then the home game before that, they rout the Steelers 30-6 at home. So I think Houston, you can kind of expect a better performance here back, on their home field. And after that rough start where CJ Stroud was just getting sacked. I think he took 11 sacks over the first 2 games. In their 5 games since, because those first 2 games, you lost both of them. You had a negative 27-point differential in those first 2 games. Since, you have a plus 47-point differential. And I think this offense with Tank Dell now back, Nico Collins playing well, they're starting to use Singletary more in the run game, which I think is beneficial because Pierce has been struggling a little bit to pick up the scheme at times. So I think this Houston offense gets it done. I think you just have the more efficient, better quarterback, and I don't think Tampa Bay is going to really be able to do much of anything on defense to disrupt that. They're solid on defense, but and then Houston, the real edge for Tampa Bay against a team like Houston would be you should be able to run on Houston, but Tampa Bay can't run, so that's kind of wasted. So Houston's going to be able to kind of play the pass and do some things against Mayfield and not really have to worry about that Buck running game. So I just think the matchup favors Houston. I think they're a better team. So give me the Texans under a field goal at home.
Yeah, this would have been one of my picks. You took it. I was mad that when this came through in our Slack messages when we're doing our weekly 6-pack draft. The Bucks are trending in the wrong direction. Baker still has some regression coming under pressure, where he has 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and you have the better quarterback at home. You mentioned Texans over the past 5 games are 3-2 with a pair of 2-point losses, and the Bucks are blitzing a ton as they do under Bowles, but they're not getting pressure, and that's basically the handicap with Stroud. Most quarterbacks are better in a clean pocket, but that's even more so the case with Stroud and just rookie quarterbacks in general. Stroud under pressure, 87 dropbacks, no touchdowns, no interceptions, no big-time throws, 4 turnover-worthy plays, a 60 quarterback rating. When clean, 177 dropbacks, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, 7 big-time throws, 2 turnover-worthy plays, 110 quarterback rating. He's also been good against the blitz, 112 rating. So if you're blitzing and not getting pressured, and that's just when he knows how to get the ball quick, where to go very quickly. But when you can get pressure and drop back, sort of like the Baker Mayfield numbers, Stroud is struggling. But the Bucs just aren't getting pressure, even though they're blitzing a ton. So this is a good matchup. I think under 3. The Texans, even from an EPA perspective, these defenses are pretty equal on the year. The Texans also dealt with some injuries early in the season at safety. Their offensive line had a ton of injuries. They're now healthier there. So, yeah, I think the Texans get it done. This would have been one of my picks as well. All right, for my second pick and the 4th overall, the Week 9 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs -1.5 against the Miami Dolphins in Germany. Look, if I lose this game, I won't care. I don't care. I mean, this is like a service academy catching a certain amount of points in college. I'll bet it every time. And I know that I'm going to come out on top 60, 70% of the time. You basically need Patrick Mahomes to win the game here. That's it. I will probably bet that till the end of days. For what it's worth, just to go back on that, Mahomes is an underdog. To back that up, Mahomes is an underdog or a favorite of 3 or less. 19-6-1 against the spread, including the postseason, 76%. I mean, that's pretty much all you need to know. And look, the Dolphins, you're going to have sharp money on the Dolphins because of some of the issues with the Chiefs. You're going to hear a lot of good cases for the Dolphins. They might be sound arguments. I don't care. I need Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day to win the game. The Dolphins are the shiny new toy every couple weeks after they beat clown cars. And then they get humbled. This is what we've seen this year. They beat 6 clowns this year. None of them have a winning record. I mean, you're talking also the Giants with all their backups, the Panthers with their entire secondary out when they just were a complete mess on offense. The broken Broncos before Vance Joseph broke up from his bender. I mean, the Chargers in the opener when you had all those adjustments with that revenge game, and then the Pats twice. Like, come on, they beat nobody. And they stepped up in class in the same exact price range. Against the Eagles and the Bills, and they got beat soundly in each game by a combined 42 points. Chiefs know Tyreek well. Look, the Dolphins' defense has a lot of talent. Javon Holland practiced. He should play. Ramsey came back. But their parts are greater than the whole as of right now. And this defense, which is a complex defense under a highly respected new coordinator, it just hasn't figured it out yet. Their metrics are even like their individual metrics are even inflated by the absolute circus offenses that they faced. Just look at what happened when they stepped up in class. And the Chiefs defense in the complete opposite end of the spectrum, their sum is greater than their parts. And they're very well schooled. And I think what's going to happen here is Patrick Mahomes, they had 5 turnovers with the flu last week. It happens. It was the Broncos Super Bowl, just one of those fluky games. He still has one of the lowest interception rates in NFL history. Tua is much more mistake prone. I think the Chiefs defense is going to bow up in the red zone. Also, speaking of the red zone, the Dolphins are scoring touchdowns on 77% of their red zone drives, which is number 1 in the NFL by a wide margin. It helps when you get PI calls like they were getting last week. But the Chiefs are around 50%. They're usually around 70%. So there's some red zone regression here. So I think this Chiefs defense is going to be ready. And look, the Chiefs are top 5. You go by DVOA, top 5 on offense, defense, and special teams. One of the handful of teams that can say that at this point in the season over the last 50 years. The Dolphins, number 1 on offense, 22 on D, and 25 on special teams. This is a big, big special teams mismatch, which matters in a game with a spread right around here. So, and look, the Dolphins D, it's improving. There's some nice pieces. They still haven't figured it all the way out yet. And they still rank 22nd on defense, DVOA. You got special teams advantage. The Chiefs defense is still playing well. Last week, they got only got 3.7 yards per play. Linebacker injuries, a little concerning because you're already down Bolton. You're probably going to be down Willie Gay. But I think that it's just Mahomes. I need him to win. Bouncing back from last week. You're going to get everything in the Chiefs' arsenal. It's a huge game. And at the end of the day, I'll trust Pat. And if I go down, it'll be okay. I'll do it again next time that he's a 1-point favorite.
Yeah, this is a tough cap for me. I mean, it's not a tough cap as much as it is. I'm kind of in line with the market, and I because it's such. But you have 2 teams that, in theory, should or are able to score a lot of points. So there's a lot of variance for me. But you've said this before, and I can't knock you for it. Just take the best quarterback on the planet when he's a dog or a favorite under a field goal. He's just automatic, pretty much almost. So can't knock it. Excited for the game. And let's go into my third and final pick, the 5th overall of the week number 9 Sunday 6-pack. I mean, if you want to go out here and just back Patrick Mahomes, then I got to, back Jared Hall, right? I mean, Minnesota plus 4.5 at the Atlanta Falcons. This is kind of a similar cap to the Patriots for me. This team should not be favored by 4.5. Against many teams. This is a bad Falcon team right now. And yes, they're starting Heineke, and he can't be much worse than Desmond Ridder, but he's not going to be some savior. I know he came in and had a pretty efficient, second half, but we've seen this over and over with backup quarterbacks. The opponent wasn't able to prepare for them. And so, they come in, they play well. So, well, now I think Minnesota has the advantage here because you hardly have seen any film on Hall. We've seen Heineke. He's been in the league for years now. Hall is still relatively new out of BYU. I like that he gives Minnesota a quarterback with some wheels because you're not going to be able to run on – Minnesota can't run, period. That's just not what they do.
Can't run on Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta's great on run defense. That's really where their defense has improved most. They are number 1.
Which hurts them here because Minnesota doesn't run it. But
yeah,
so
exactly.
That's what I was curious to get your thoughts on here. But then does Minnesota need to run it with a backup quarterback? That was what I was wondering what your handicap was there.
I was going to say 2 things. Number 1, now you have the option of quarterback runs, RPO concepts, things that you just didn't have with Kirk Cousins. Number 2, those schemes and concepts also tend to help your actual running game. If the quarterback's a threat, now you can start, making a defender, commit to either the quarterback or the ball carrier, and you can get some things going there. So I think not only Hall in terms of his traits, but just the uncertainty, the lack of the lack of experience. The lack of film on him. I think this helps Minnesota in this spot. And then you just look at these teams otherwise, and it's like Atlanta is 25th in overall DVOA, 24th on offense, 25th on defense, 26th on special teams. This is not a good Falcon team. I know we were bullish on them to get the division, and hey, they still have a shot, but not looking great here. Meanwhile, Minnesota, they've been solid. 15th in overall DVOA, so above average. 14th on offense. Now, obviously, that goes down, but I think what's really been, a pleasant surprise, top 10 in defensive DVOA. Brian Flores finding a way to mix it up enough because he says, hey, I don't need to blitz to get pressure all the time. Sometimes we just blitz to confuse the opposing quarterback. Well, now you're playing Taylor Heinicke, who, why did he get benched last year? Why is he on a different team? Because he led the league in turnover-worthy play rate last year, and he was the second lowest graded quarterback out of 41 qualifiers, ahead of only Zach Wilson. So let's not act like Heinicke's this big savior here for this Washington team. And from what I've seen of Hall, I'm curious, do you have any thoughts on him? But I do think the kid has some upside. I think he has great intangibles. He has some wheels. He makes some accurate throws with anticipation. So I think there's some upside here with the kind of the unknown and the uncertainty, kind of like, and even if he's terrible, you've seen guys like, Tyson Bagent and Cooper Rush, when it's their first game, you still have the edge just because, you haven't really seen much of these guys yet. Whereas like a guy like Heinicke, the book is out on him. We know how to stop him already. This Atlanta team has not been great. You have a low total in this game. 37 is the total. Road Dogs, when you have a total of 38 or less, 88 and 54, 62% against the spread. And this is when you want to fade Atlanta. Like home favorites, just 3-8 against the spread as home favorites under Arthur Smith. Just 6-14 against the spread at home, period, under Arthur Smith. And remember, they were starting Desmond Ridder for a while, who does nothing but play well at home. So they actually benched, they might have benched him at the wrong time here, but I love the uncertainty. I think it's just way too many points. This Minnesota I actually had Minnesota as a slight favorite, if Cousins was in the lineup, even without Jefferson. So downgrading them a ton for Hall, but I think these teams are a lot more evenly matched than people think. And the Vikings actually may have the better quarterback. We don't know because we just haven't seen enough of Hall, but fading this Falcon team, getting 4.5 points with Minnesota.
Yeah, well, the one thing I would worry about is backing up a recent BYU quarterback.
Right.
So it's tough to get it's tough to get a great read on BYU quarterbacks. It'll be better now that they're in the Big 12, but you're just not facing like elite defenses, week in and week out. I think I just go off the top of my head, like he didn't play well against Notre Dame last year, but he played well against Arkansas. But a lot of times you're just playing Mountain West defenses. He had 31 touchdowns, I think, to only like 4 or 5 interceptions. I could be making this up.
No, that sounds right. I know he had 30. I believe he had over 30 touchdowns. I don't remember.
So yeah, he had good numbers, but I don't have a great read on him. It's hard to get a great feel for some of the quarterbacks that don't play, at the Power 5 level. So you have the uncertainty, the lack of film in his first start working in his favor. It does concern me that Minnesota probably won't be able to run to like just help him out and settle into the game. Whereas because Atlanta might be able to run. I mean, I'm really impressed with Flores has done with this defense, the Minnesota defense, given what they have to work with. But you could still run on them efficiently. Minnesota really wants to just like try to blitz, and they want to take away the explosive play. So, but with Heinicke, is he going to try and make crazy throws? There's a lot of variance with him, and you don't like him as a favorite. He tries to fit too many balls into tight windows, so there could be some turnovers here. So taking the dog with super low total and a lot of uncertainty, I don't hate it, but I don't have a strong feel for this game. For my third pick and the 6th overall of the Week 9 Sunday 6-pack. I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens -5.5 against Seattle Seahawks. Showed a little bit of value on this. You took Houston, so this was my 4th favorite pick. I do think the Ravens roll here. The line is pretty sharp, but I think that I have the Ravens now power rated number 1 in the NFL. There's really, I think their secondary is still a bit overrated, but other than that, there's really no weaknesses on this team. The offense is rolling. It's hit its stride, and everything is clicking. And you're going up against a Seattle defense that, some people love. I don't. I dug into the Seattle defense, and I think that they're ripe for the picking here. I mean, let's look what they've done this year. And look, I love Witherspoon. He's great, grading out extremely well. But I still think their outside corners are a bit overrated. I don't love anything up front. I think their linebackers can be exposed in this matchup by Lamar's legs and by Mark Andrews. Seattle's defense this year gave up 30, 31, and 27 to start the year against the Panthers, Lions, and Rams. And that was without Kupp, the Dalton starting, which was probably better for the Panthers. And the Panthers had like 13, I think they had 8 or 9 false start penalties. Since then, everyone's changed their narrative on the Seattle D. They played the Giants with, you, me, our 2 producers, and grab your guy off the street on the offensive line, which has inflated their pressure numbers and their defensive numbers across the board. They're still below average by some advanced metrics too, overall. So they played the Giants, hampered Burrow before the bye when that offense was just stuck, Dobbs in the Cardinals, and P.J. Walker in the Browns, who were actually moving the ball all over on the Seattle defense. That's it. The Giants, the pre-bye Bengals, the Cardinals, and the Browns with P.J. Walker. So, come on. So I think that this defense is ripe to get picked apart by Lamar Jackson, who is 18-1 straight up against the NFC, never lost at home. Why is that a thing? Well, it's because these teams don't see Lamar Jackson. And when they see him for the first time, right, a lot of times you're only playing these NFC teams once, not used to his speed. And it is very problematic. We saw that with Detroit. Hutchinson's still spinning in circles, still in a washing machine from that game, trying to chase around Lamar. The linebackers had no shot. I see similar advantages here. I also think with some of the coverages that the Ravens run and how they want to play defense, they're going to cause Geno Smith some major problems here. So I think the Ravens jump out early and hold on for the cover. I like the -5.5. I think they win this game by at least a touchdown, but I'm going to say 10+.
Yeah, number one, please just cover the Ravens again to make up for what they did to me last week. But number 2, just get this out of your system now so you don't have to go betting this Ravens-Browns game that's going to come up again. And I know there's going to be shenanigans with that. But, this is, don't really have a great feel for whether to lay the points here. But my cap on this game, early in the week, I do the pod with Kerner, and we do a quarterback we're high and low on and every position. And for me, it was Geno Smith was a guy I'm low on because, I think that Baltimore's defense is just one of the more well-equipped, maybe the best equipped to slow down this Seattle offense with, they have great wide receivers, but, Baltimore can match up there. Baltimore's leading the league in sacks. And Geno's really only good game was that game against Detroit where he only took 1 sack, and that was a give-up sack late in the game because they were just trying to run the clock down to the 2-minute warning. So if Baltimore is able to get pressure and man up these receivers, it's going to be tough. You're probably going to it's probably going to look a lot like last week against Cleveland where you're going to see turnovers, but the difference is the Ravens, they can score points unlike PJ Walker. You just got to hope there's no sleepy, or just weird give ups in the second half. And, like what we saw last week, but I don't hate it because I do think Geno will struggle, and that's a big part of slowing Seattle down. All right. Well, this is hilarious because looking at this 6-pack, you essentially took all of the, popular national televised games, and I just got
one of us.
You got Mahomes, you got Dak, and you got Lamar. Meanwhile, I got Sam Howell, CJ Stroud, not bad, but and then Jaren Hall. So there's a big discrepancy in the quality of quarterbacks, but that's how it shakes. I feel like this is like reverse. Usually,
usually
you would have the uglier, quarterbacks. But I love this.
And you took Stroud, so I was gonna have Stroud too.
Yeah, we're just living in reverse, but it should be a great slate because you have the marquee games, but then you have all these other intriguing matchups, and I'm sure I'm gonna have a ton of props this week too, just because there's just so much kind of newness and uncertainty and I think angles to attack. So look out for that. But to recap the 6-pack, Stuck has Dallas +3, Kansas City -1.5, and the Ravens -5.5. I have the Commanders +3.5, the Texans -2.5, and the Minnesota Vikings +4.5. All right, that was our Sunday 6-pack. And now it is time for our Week 9 Coaches Pep Talk.
Half the men in this church, including you, are as ardent patriots as I. Will you now, when you are needed most, stop at only words? Is that the sort of men you are? I ask only that you act upon the beliefs of which you have so strongly spoken and in which you so strongly believe.
This week's Coaches Pep Talk comes to us from the 2000 film The Patriot, and we're going to dedicate it to the Commanders since they're going up against the Patriots and need the Patriots' knife to start falling again after a brief respite against the Buffalo Bills a couple weeks ago. So we're going to dedicate it to the Commanders. Let's get this done. Keep this Patriots, these L's coming for the Patriots against the spread. All right, now it's time for our favorite total of the week. All right, Stuck. We both whiffed on our totals last week, well, an over and an under. So back to the drawing board this week. I went first in the 6-pack. Where are you going with your total?
Let's go. Yeah, my overrun came to an end in devastating fashion. I thought that there was life, and then the Panthers just kept turning it over in shotgun. By the way, why the Panthers going to use? I thought they were going to use Dalton as a sneaker, and then they just don't do that. They had a ball. They had the ball.
Coordinator.
Yeah, they had the ball on the 1-inch yard line. Like when in the center, and it looks like the ball's almost crossing the goal line, and snap it at 6 yards back. It just makes no sense. It's just common sense, and it makes no sense that teams would do that. Yeah, like get your fullback, anybody, if you don't want to have your quarterback do it. Anyway, I digress. The under was the right side.
No, only the Houston fullback could score in that game. Andrew Beck had a day.
Yeah. No, the under was the right side. But both those teams, I don't know why they were running it so much. By the way, for what it's worth, going back to the 6-pack, just to talk about the lines, like your lines are all pretty much. But you had the Falcons. Who'd you have again? You had the Falcons, the Washington,
Commanders,
and Houston. Yeah, you want to take, because someone asked me to talk about, a couple people asked me to talk about more about like when you would bet them. Okay. I think in your case you would agree. Falcons, Vikings you can bet now, it's in the dead range, doesn't really matter. Texans you want to get now under 3, and then Commanders you want to get now because you want to get that before it goes to 3, and bigger risk going to waiting and for 4 and it goes to 3. I don't think it's going to go much higher. In my case, I'm taking the Cowboys now +3. I think it probably closed there, but I can see some sharper groups hitting Dallas and it coming down by on game day. But you just get the 3. It's not going to go to 3.5. Right, I shouldn't say it's not. I don't think it's going to go to 3.5. And then with the Ravens, there's 5.5 out there. Get the 5.5 under 6. It's not going to go down, so you can hit that now. I think that only has a chance of going up more past 6 and maybe to 7, but I don't think it gets there. And then with the Chiefs, I'm actually waiting -1.5 in the 6-pack, but it's under 3, and I anticipate some like sharper Miami money and Chiefs fade money to come in. So I'm going to see if it gets to 1. So I'm waiting there because I don't think it's going to go to 3. So Just wanted to get that out of the way. But for my favorite total, I'm going with Browns Cardinals under 37.5. Super low total here with even. I don't think there's going to be much weather in Cleveland, even though there usually is this time of the year. This is a big Browns defense bounce back game. They gave up the explosive to the Colts. Last week they played well against Seattle, gave up the late score, but this is still, for my money, the best defense in the NFL. And look, even though they've been statistically the best defense, they're still 29th in red zone touchdown percentage. So there's some regression coming there. I don't know how the Cardinals score, to be honest. Clayton Tune is going to get the start. I also am assuming PJ Walker is getting the start for the Browns. So what does that mean? And I don't, for what it's worth, I don't know that. Like, there is a chance Kyler Murray could start. There is a chance that Watson could start. But from everything that I've gathered, I think it's going to be their PJ Walker versus Clayton Tune. So what I think after what's happened with the Browns, like, the Browns have to be pretty happy with where they're at, considering they've had to play PJ Walker. They almost stole 3 straight games, although they should have won last week. But they stole 2 games before. They could have lost on a field goal to the 49ers, missed that, and they got a beneficial call on pass interference. But I think what Stefanski saw last week is, all right, you don't want PJ Walker to make a key mistake. You can do that as an underdog against the Seahawks. I think here with the Ravens on deck, you want to worry about health, and then you want to make sure that PJ Walker doesn't blow this game. So I think what you see the Browns do against a clearly inferior opponent, lean on the run game, lean on your defense, very conservative game plan. I just don't know how Arizona scores against this pissed off Browns D at home. I think there's a good chance they pitch a shutout. So give me the under 37.5. Back to ugly unders where I feel comfortable.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's Cleveland. They got me. I tried to go under with them, and I think it was like the third play of the game, explosive plays. I think that's what you have to worry about in these Cleveland games. Even with PJ Walker, they still have talent at the skill positions, but I agree. Clayton Tune, I guess you have that uncertainty working in your favor, but I've talked about this before. The Cardinals, 2 of their top 3 receivers are tiny. They've lost, they're losing guys. They've lost guys since earlier in the year. And I mean,
they could just bully these receivers with their man coverage, and then they're going to get pressure on Tune. There's no running game to speak of. This is not.
Demercado's been all right the last couple of weeks.
It's all right. I'm saying you're not going to go out there and he's not going to run all over the Browns. This is the worst possible scenario for a rookie quarterback making his first start on the road against the best defense in the NFL, pissed off after a loss where they can just man up and take away your receivers while getting pressure going up against the best edge rusher in the NFL, Myles Garrett. I feel bad for Clayton Tune.
Yeah, I mean,
and I expect just really conservative from the Browns. Like, just run. We know that our defense is going to dominate. We have the Ravens next week in a huge game for the division. Just don't let Walker mess it up. So this is a game where you can just run it, punt it. Like 4th and 1 at the 45, punt it. And I wouldn't even mind, just from a football fan. Like, you can just rely on your D here. Don't make mistakes. Don't give them any life whatsoever. And they should strangulate them.
Speaking of timing, would you wait on this one? Because Kyler's not officially ruled out, right? Like, they're kind of playing coy, and he's probably not going to play, but I feel like there's something with the practice report, and they haven't officially ruled him out. So I guess there's always a chance he could at least be the backup. So is that something you would kind of monitor,
or? Yeah, maybe hit some of it now and wait, because I really do think it's going to be Tune versus Walker from what I've gathered, but there is a chance. So yeah, maybe hit some of it now at 37.5 and then wait and see where it goes and maybe add to it after the news. But I do think it's going to be Tune versus Walker.
All right, for my total, I'm going with a first half under for this one, and it is the Packers-Rams first half under 19.5. And the reason being, Green Bay has just been really bad with their scripted portion. And I think there's been a few coaches that have just the luster has come off. Daboll's definitely one of them. I think LaFleur is another one. Obviously McDaniels, it's there was never any luster to begin with, but not really loving what I'm seeing coaching wise out of this Packer team. And I know you were high on them coming into the year, but they've just underachieved wildly. And we're 7, 8 games. We're half the season's done now. So looking at some of the data, it's more than just okay.
Do they even come up with a script? Do they even come up with a script?
Yeah, it's called punt. But I mean, it's bad. So, but again, in terms of the NFL sample sizes, a lot of things are going to start to stabilize. From starting about week 5 or 6 and all into the middle of the year, when you could start really, you're not adding as much regression to the mean as you would first few weeks, a lot more uncertainty and randomness and things like that. So we've played half the season now. This Packer team is averaging 4.1 points per game in the first half in Lambeau, which was supposed to be big home field advantage, but maybe that was just Aaron Rodgers. It was an advantage for him because of all the things he's able to do pre-snap. But at home, 2 points per game in the first half. 2. So the first half under for the Packers this year has gone 5-1-1, and I expect that to continue because this Ram offense, more likely than not, is going to start Brett Rypien. And I mean, this Packer team is down so bad. Like I was hoping that we kind of get a line similar to that Falcons game where Packers would be favored by 4.5, and I would have taken just taken a shot on Rypien and this Ram team as an underdog, but Rypien is just really bad, man. And somehow he's actually covered 2 out of the 3 starts he's made in his career, but he throws like a ridiculous amount of turnover worthy plays. He's just not very good. I think you tried to back him with Denver once against the Jets, and he's just throwing the ball out of bounds all day. Like so I have no trust in the Rams offense, even with some good wide receivers, and even with the Packers trading away Rasul Douglas, who is one of the better corners in the league. I just don't really think you see enough accuracy from Rypien, and there's a chance that there's more than a chance that the Packers just don't do anything anyway. And so even if Rypien gets the Rams 10, 13 points, you could still be looking at a chance to cover here because this Packer team, for whatever reason, and maybe it's the youth, yes, Love is year 4 now, but doesn't have much experience. And then all the pass catchers at wide receiver, the tight ends, all, first, second year players, maybe that, and the line hasn't been good. So just, it's not great for this Packer offense, but now that you're going up against another offense that's probably not going to do too much with a bad backup quarterback like this first half under. But once you get in the second half, all bets are off. That's when the Packers have been better. And this Ram defense been overachieving a little bit, but not great. But the Packers are averaging about 16 points a game in the second half, just 4 in the first half. So this is the way to kind of attack Packer totals is bet them under in the first half. That's where I'm going. All right. So just to recap, Stuck has Cleveland, Arizona under 37.5. I have Green Bay Rams first half under 19.5. Doubt we'll get to 20. That's more of a key number, but 19.5, 19, all the same for me. Let's go to our favorite teaser of the week. And for those unfamiliar with teasers, it's just when you get an extra allotment of points to parlay 2 or more bets against the spread. Usually the standard is a 2-team 6-point teaser. So for example, a 2.5 point favorite, a 2.5 point underdog becomes an 8.5 point underdog, and an 8.5 point favorite becomes a 2.5 point favorite. So Stuck has a lot of great content out explaining how he likes to tease through key numbers and his overall approach. And Stuck, you've got 7-1 on this pod this year on teasers. I'm 5-3, so you are just in a completely different zone right now with these. So definitely, everyone listening, go check that out if you're interested in diving deeper. We have to keep it brief here so we can get through the pod. So where are you going with your teaser for this week?
Yeah, let's go with a classic long teaser and tease through 7-3. And by the way, I think moving forward, the teasing from 2.5 up to 8.5 and 8.5. Well, that most importantly, but 2.5 up to 8.5 with an underdog will end up being even more valuable over time because, more teams are going to go for 2, when they're down 14 and they score.
Yep.
So you'll see more games end 8 than 7 in the future. So let's tease the Panthers up from +2.5 to +8.5 at home against the Colts. I think the Panthers offense will continue to get better, and their defense has gotten some guys back on the back end. I mean, if you look at some of their games they played this year, they played without basically their entire secondary in some of the games. So their defensive metrics are way worse. Defense looked a lot better last week. Really like their defensive coordinator. And the Colts defense is a mess right now. I mean, it is a mess.
Oh, yeah. Gus Bradley, duh.
Yeah, Gus Bradley. You also lost Grover Stewart, who hurts your run D. The secondary was always a mess. So yeah, and then look, you also have a low total here of 44. Ideally, you want to try to, when you tease these, under 48, under 47s, and under 45 is ideal. Less variance. And then I'm going to tease another low total here, tease a favorite from 8.5 to 2.5, going with the Saints. I like what I saw from the offense finally with Derek Carr. We knew that it was going to take some time. There'll still probably be some growing pains, but it was a new system. And I liked what I saw, and they're playing now clown car defense. What are the Bears doing trading for someone on the defense this year, though, by the way? I mean, they're 2-6. What are you giving away draft capital for? For a guy are you not even going to re-sign him? I don't know. I don't know his contract. Like, I agree with the 49ers.
So they would have they could tag him. So they could guarantee him for the next 2 seasons after this by, just tagging him and back-to-back years at a worst. But a lot of people familiar with the situation are speculating. There's nothing official, but are speculating that there's at least some type of wink agreement with the agent or something, because why? Yeah, it would really make no sense to just kind of blindly do that. But I will say this, the one thing I could, and I'm not saying it's a good move, but I'm trying to just at least understand the thought process. It could be that they're just like, all right.
By the way, we're talking about Montez Sweat, the Bears trade.
Yeah. That's which is why we're getting the hook on the Commanders. So everything circles back here. But I think what it could be is you're looking at at Fields and saying, all right, we're out on Fields. We're looking to draft a quarterback, and maybe we also need either a tackle or maybe you have 2 positions, premium positions essentially that you're going to attack in the draft: quarterback and, let's say, receiver or tackle or O-line or cornerback even. I mean, yeah, now it's weird with Johnson, so who knows? But so you're saying, okay, there's going to be a premium position that even with all of our assets, we're not going to be able to attack next year. So let's just go out and get like a proven guy now, and we'll just have him for an extra 8 games, even though we don't need him now. That's the only thing I could think of that remotely makes sense. But then again, the Bears, like, coaches are getting fired or quitting every day. Like, I don't really know what's going on in that building. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised Ryan Poles didn't trade a first-round draft pick for another linebacker. But because I do agree with the 49ers trading a third-round pick for Chase Young. Chase, because you're a contender, even if you don't re-sign him. And you have Chase Young is, like, if you dig into the metrics, he's actually been really good in stretches. If you look at like pass rush grade over expectation and adjust it for opponent, he's been pretty good. And they had nothing on the other end. Like, you watch, like, it's Nick Bosa dominating off the edge, and the other edge is just Farrell and or Drake Jackson getting just blocked into oblivion. So I actually like that. They're a contender. It's different when you're 2-6. Anyway, Bears defense still horrible. And it's Tyson Bagent. That party ended last week. Saints defense should be able to shut down the Bears here. So yeah, Saints and Panthers, little NFC South teaser. Yeah.
I'm going with the exact same one. And these are 2 teams I don't believe I've backed either all year, because these are the 2 teams along with the Colts, who have proven me dead wrong. I actually like what the Colts are. They're just overachieving. I mean, they're still bad, but these two teams, the Panthers they not cover till last week, right? That was the first time they covered. So
yeah,
that's been a good one. And then the Saints have had some disappointing losses, but I will say I'm seeing what I need to see to start backing them now in spots. The Saints offense has put up over 400 total yards in each of the last 3 games, 430, 407, and 511 last week, which is, they have the talent. So it's about time. And then the Panthers, they did the one thing that, I really thought they needed to do, which was give Frank Reich less power. So they, no longer calling plays, and, only 15 points in that game against Houston, but it's a tough matchup. And I think D'Amico and that defense by the end of the year will probably look a lot better than maybe they're giving credit for now. So I'm not going to hold that against them too much, but overall, I thought Bryce Young looked better. And I think the Saints offense looks better. So yeah, don't mind teasing these teams this week in both in really good spots. And the fact that the Bears couldn't even, keep the Chargers in a 1-possession game. I mean, that says all you need to know, because the Chargers, I mean, that's their MO. That's all they do is play 1-possession games. And if they don't, they're usually on the losing end. So the fact that they were able to blow them out it's not good for Bagent. I think the jig is up. All right, let's go to Carolina up to 8.5 and New Orleans down to 1.5. And as we'll go into our money line dog in a second, but as a reminder, the Action Network podcast is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, time for our Week 9 Underdog Moneyline Parlay. All right, you had the Titans last week, so another good call for you. I had the Steelers. Yeah, they just did not show up. So where are you going this week to keep it going?
Going back to all reliable quarterback uncertainty, take the dog. So the Raiders are going to start Aiden O'Connell. A lot of uncertainty. If they were the dog, I would take them here. But the Giants are the dog. Daniel Jones will be back. And look, what the Raiders defense is doing, because it's not talented outside of Max Crosby, is they just try to take away the explosive play. That's why they're under gods, and you just have to work your way down the field. And that is all they want to do, is don't prevent explosive plays, make you work for it. Then hopefully you make a mistake, throw a pick six like Goff did, or, fumble, because they just don't have a lot of talent on that defense. But that's actually fine for the Giants. Like, the Giants run it with Barkley, short passes. Like, taking away the explosiveness of the Giants offense, it does nothing, right? Like, it does absolutely nothing.
What explosiveness? Take on Barkley a 5-yard run instead of a 4-yard run?
Yeah. So, this is a good matchup for the Giants. And their defense is playing really well lately.
Yep.
Wake Martindale has them balling out. I mean, the last couple of games against the Bills and the Jets, they've been dominant. So they're trending up as well. New coach too. So you gotta, and this has happened very rapidly. So a lot of uncertainty there. It's not like you're having a coach here that has much experience at the NFL level, and Antonio Pierce for the Raiders. So yeah, let's go with the Giants and hope the quarterback uncertainty with O'Connell works in our favor.
Yeah. I'm actually curious to hear your thoughts on this, because I totally agree with firing McDaniels and all those clowns. I mean, he was clearly, and this Belichick is just getting exposed, because again, this was Belichick's succession plan, just happened to end up being with the Raiders. But
I thought Belichick's succession plan was Patricia and Judge.
Yeah, no, before that, remember, it was McDaniels.
I know.
and
I'm just bringing that up too.
Oh man, it's been bad. But I'm curious to hear your opinion on the benching of Jimmy Garoppolo for Aiden O'Connell, because it's one of those things where I think it's kind of similar to Carr last year, where it's, even if you don't say like flat out it's for the rest of the year, it's kind of hard to come back from that with a guy, with a veteran like Jimmy G, who's so, well known and generally liked. Like, you just can't, like, you kind of got to just sit him for the rest of the year, or, get him off the team or something. So, like, I'm just curious what you think of that move, because, well, I get it. It seems a little like an overreaction. Like, O'Connell, yeah, you do want to see him at some point over Hoyer, obviously, but I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is not the first quarterback to miss a couple of throws. I mean, I think we saw Justin Herbert on Monday night in a primetime game, overthrow Keenan Allen 2 or 3 times and on an obvious touchdown. So this is like, you've seen, if you acquire Jimmy G, like, you've seen the tape, he can miss some of those, especially down the field. So I'm just curious as to what your thoughts were as far as the benching of Garoppolo.
I think Davante Adams went into Mark Davis's office and had a talk with him.
I mean, it could be, because
and I think that Mark Davis basically said, all right, and then fired the GM, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback for Adams. So we'll see how it works out, but I think that's basically what probably happened. And look, the Raiders aren't going anywhere this year, so it's not the end of the world. I mean, this is a lost season. Let's just see what O'Connell has. You already know what you're going to get with Jimmy G. If you had like a winning team, you would want him back there, but why not see what you have with O'Connell, and then decide if you need to move on or not, and get another quarterback. So, but I think that Adams probably had a lot of influence in this decision.
Yeah,
it probably was an overreaction.
Yeah, it just like the coaching and the coach and the GM and the OC, that was a long time coming. But guys missed throws as bad as it looked, and Jimmy, he was part of the problem in that game. But it's just still odd. So the only thing is, I was thinking about the back in the Giants too, and I do think it's better to just go straight up money line here. But, do we get, Antonio Pierce is a former Giant. So, like, do we just get like, like a Saturday type of situation, like new coach boost or something? I don't know.
Historically, you have a little bit of a boost in the NFL, new looks. There's an element of surprise, but I think that's taken away a little bit with, you have a backup quarterback, Young, in there. So it kind of wipes that edge out, and I think it's a good matchup for the Giants. So yeah, let's roll with the Giants. And you're going with what? You're going with another New York team. All New York.
Yeah, let's go Buffalo here. Listen, loved Cincinnati last week, and then we had I actually didn't even get the best of the number because the concussion protocol hit while we were recording, and then I thought for sure he was going to be out, and then he wasn't. But either way, Cincinnati got the job done. And now I think you're getting a little bit of value here on Buffalo, who, they're still not, they still haven't hit their stride. Those injuries on defense, but I do like the acquisition of Douglas. And this is the time you want to back this Buffalo Bill team. We saw them give up the cover against Tampa Bay, but as a money line dog with Josh Allen starting, they've won outright in 5 of their last 7 in that spot. So, quality Bengals team, but Buffalo is going to have this spot circled after the Bengals ended their season last year in the playoffs, and that was coming off the emotional DeMar Hamlin situation in the regular season. So the Bills just want to get out and get right. And I did think Josh Allen, it wasn't just lip service when he was saying, all right, I'm just going to kind of get back to being myself. And I just thought he was playing a lot quicker, and they're doing some things with tempo, and so you're going to get a good game plan out of Cincinnati. But
involving Shakir was really good.
Yeah, and you still and Cincinnati. The one thing they on defense, I mean, a couple of things. The tackling hasn't been great, but tight ends they've really struggled with. So the fact that Kincaid is breaking out at the right time, I think, adds another weapon to this offense. So like the Bills in this spot as a short money line dog. I just think this is a toss-up game, and the Bengals are, hitting their stride. I think the Bills are getting back to in a good spot offensively as well, and Douglas will definitely help the pass defense.
Yeah, we'll see if Douglas plays. Like that's one thing that I'm worried about. Like it was fun on the injury report today, the Bills injury report. It said DNP, and then his reasoning was just got here. That's what the Bills put on the official.
Hey, they got 8 extra hours, so Sunday night game.
So yeah, we'll see. Like, can he learn the defense? I don't know if he'll play a full workload, but he'll definitely. You got to get Elam out of there. And. Yeah, so I was hoping this got to 3. I would lean the Bills as well. Like them as a money line dog here. I actually also like the over, which keeps getting hit, and I keep waiting and not hitting it. It was going to be my favorite total, and then it went to 48.5, and then it went to 49.5. So the Bills, since their injuries when they lost basically 3 guys who could have been all pro caliber players, one at each level, and then the replacement level players have been over this many times, or just the drop off is massive. They've been a bottom 5 defense since then. And also for the season, they faced one of the easiest schedules of opposing offenses. So that defense is still nowhere close to what it was last year. And the Bengals defense is much worse than it was last year. Their safeties are down. Trey Hendrickson didn't practice today. That's massive. Trey Hendrickson, if you look at like a chart of a pass rush over expectation, if you like adjust it for opponent and and situation too. Myles Garrett is like in a different stratosphere. Then it's Nick Bosa, Parsons, and Hendrickson. I mean, that's how good he's been. Your next level is like Crosby, Rashawn Gary, DeMarcus Lawrence, Chase Young, Hutchinson, TJ Watt. So yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. So if he's out, the safety's been bad. So this Bengals defense, they're nowhere close to as good. Look, they started 0-2. They gave up 24 and 27. They had a good effort versus the Rams in primetime, must-win situation. Since then, they gave up 27 and 400 yards to the Titans. That old Titans offense shredded them. They gave up 20 to the Cardinals. They only gave up 17 to Seattle, 400 yards. Seattle just vomited in the red zone. 17 to the Niners, 460 yards. Both those teams just had a ton of turnovers and then bad red zone luck. So, and both of these defenses have been good in the red zone, where I don't think that they profile as great red zone defenses. So there's probably some regression coming there. If you go back to these meetings last year, obviously they didn't play one with the unfortunate Hamlin situation. That total was 48.5. The playoff meeting in weather total was 49. So you're telling me like the total should be the same, where Burrow and that offense is back. Allen, they were moving the ball at will. One of the best offenses in the NFL. And both these defenses are way down. So I think part of this is the lower scoring environment in the NFL, but I don't think that has anything to do with this game. I think this is a good old fashioned shootout. I think this is a total that should be 50 and a half, 51, 51 and a half. And I think this goes back and forth. Fun game. And yeah, I think it's basically like who has the ball last possibly. So I like this as a moneyline dog.
Are you going to still bet that total? Or
I probably will bet it. Yeah. As long as it's so Hendrickson didn't practice today. They said they're gonna manage his ankle. So like I'm hoping that then he practices and then it'll come back down a bit. Allen didn't the weird thing is Allen didn't practice today, but I'm assuming he's gonna be fine. They're just resting
shoulder injury.
It's a Wednesday. Yeah, it's a shoulder. They're just resting it. So yeah, I'm gonna wait and watch the market, but I'll be on the over in some aspect. I was hoping for Bills +3. It was creeping, and then they got hit. So I don't think it's going to get there, but I like the Bills and the over. Just wish I bet the over earlier.
Yes. So our luck rankings have this over expected to go over like by 8.6 points. That is the second highest of the week and one of the highest of the year. So that essentially means that both teams have kind of performed combined to perform 8.5 points under, where they should be scoring. whether it's offensively or defensively. So
yeah, defense has been very, very fortunate in a number. I mean, look at the Giants game, the Giants versus the Bills. I mean, the Giants were at the 50 times, didn't score any points. So, and then the Bengals, I mean, look, you have Christian McCaffrey fumbling at the 10 last week. You have
Purdy threw the ball right to a lineman or something.
Right to the red lineman. Zone. You had the Seahawks game where the Seahawks just got down to the red zone.
Eight red zone.
2 times the last 2 minutes with 0 points. So yeah, both these defenses have been overperforming and are a step below last year. Both offenses now what we've seen with Burrow, both offenses are right at the same level. So this total shouldn't be at the same level it was last year.
Yeah, maybe somebody will just try to run with that primetime under trend and maybe it'll drop back down again, leading up. So I get at this point, I mean, what's the next key number? It would be 51. It's at 49.5. So you got some leeway to just kind of wait it out for now.
Yeah, 50 is semi-key. I mean, you had
I guess
23.
True.
So, but 51 is major key. So I might play a little now and then see where it goes and play some more.
Well, the Giants are plus 100 and the Bills plus 110. So both pretty short dogs in these spots, rightfully so. But if you parlay them, you get plus 320. So do it that as you will. We got through all the games, so no best of the rest, no meaningful to some in this at the end here. But we'll go right into Survivor and then get out of here. All right, so last week, Ravens, at least they got the win, but did not get the cover, but have used Washington, the Giants, which is kind of wild considering the state of both of those teams, Kansas City, San Francisco, Miami, Buffalo, Seattle, Baltimore, through the first 8 weeks. This is a tough week. I would lean, it's either Saints or Cleveland, I think. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Saints here.
But why? Yeah, because I'm curious your thoughts. Because if you look at, because the Saints play in a clown division, and I haven't even looked at these schedules because I've been out since week 2. Thanks, Russ. But after this, Browns are at Ravens, Steelers at Broncos, at Rams, Jags. They do have the Bears in week 15 at home. But I haven't looked at the Saints schedule. So I'm curious your thoughts on those two, because those were two the ones that I would have looked at as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns are my initial pick, but I just, as we sit here early in the week, it's we have more of a known quantity, I think, with what's going on with the Saints and the Bears game. We know
Kyler Murray still could play.
Yeah. There's just and I mean we could get PJ Walker against Kyler Murray instead of Deshaun Watson against Clayton Tune. So that kind of changes things. So we record this on Wednesday. So obviously, if we have a Discord, we have, you can hit me up on Twitter if you really want to know if anything's changed. But I try to give, kind of look ahead and make sure nothing silly happens. So I don't think it would be, I just couldn't recommend going Browns this early in the week. If everything held and we're getting Watson against Tune, especially, but even getting Watson, I don't know how much that's worth right now because he's been playing poorly. So, I just think Cleveland is at least I think they're a bigger risk for an upset. Bears already had their upset. Saints are hitting their stride, and just a little bit more uncertainty with this, this Cardinal team. Who knows? So yeah, I think we're gonna go Saints here, even though that famous last word. Watch the Saints just drop this one somehow. But no, we'll go Saints here because it's Wednesday. All right, so that is going to wrap it up for our Week 9 Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. We'll be back every Thursday all season long. You can hear more of me this week with my guy Kerner, talking fantasy, DFS, all that good stuff on the Fantasy Flex podcast, and also the Player Projections pod, which is out on this channel. And be sure to check out that Discord server. Link will be in the episode description. And you can, of course, hear Stucky talking about college football on the Big Bets on Campus pod. That drops every Friday morning. Stuck is on X, formerly Twitter, at Stucky2. I am at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this shmoney.